in the 5th year after being taken back by my biological parents. They cooked a big table of dishes for me for the first time, yet I couldn't feel happy at all. Because they intended to give the company I had painstakingly built to my adoptive brother, but instead of getting angry, I agreed on the spot. Because I had been reborn. In my past life, I had fiercely opposed handing over the company, only to be falsely accused of infidelity by my adoptive brother. In order to salvage the relationship with my wife and parents, I took the blame for my adoptive brother's arson case and went to prison. Yet after my release, I was abandoned on the streets. My wife not only remarried my adoptive brother, but even my daughter affectionately called him Dad, and my biological parents just watched coldly as I died of illness. Thus, after being reborn, the first thing I did was accept the invitation from the richest lady in the city, becoming her adopted son. And on the day my wife remarried my adoptive brother, I would deliver them a special gift. I wanted everyone who had ever hurt me to understand, without me shielding them from the storms, they would learn just how cold and unbearable the heavy rain could be. Chapter 1. Mr. Wang. Once you sign this inheritance agreement, you will officially become Madam Chan's son. Madam has no children of her own and places great hopes on you. Please, don't disappoint her, the old butler advised, handing me what I had requested. Proof of my staged death, a critical illness notice for late-stage leukemia, stating the patient had only 1 month to live. I nodded. Please tell Madam Chan that, 1 month from now, George will no longer exist in this world. There will only be her son, David Chan. Bathed in the sunset glow, my car sped along the road home. In the back seat, I sat quietly, hiding a faint sadness while gazing out the window. No one knew. 3 days ago, I had been reborn. In my past life, I was kidnapped at the age of 7 and taken to a remote village. Heartbroken, my parents adopted a boy of the same age named Makoto, though I was eventually found 10 years later. My parents had already formed a deep bond with their adoptive son, while their love for their biological son, me, was lukewarm at best. Fortunately, I was highly capable. Within 5 years, I successfully led Wang Group to go public, propelling the Wang family's status in City A to new heights. However, soon after, Makoto committed arson and injured others, facing a 10-year prison sentence. My parents, desperate to protect him, even knelt down before me, begging, "George, you grew up in the mountains. You're tough. Your brother, Makoto, is different. He's been pampered all his life. If he goes to prison, he'll never survive." My wife, Willow, also made repeated promises. "George, no matter what happens, Alicia and I will always love you. We'll wait for you to come home and reunite." For 10 long years, I endured prison life. On the day of my release, other inmates were picked up by their families one after another. I waited from dawn till dusk, but no car from the Wang or Liu families ever arrived. During my time behind bars, Makoto had taken my place as the celebrated CEO. The woman who once vowed to wait for me married Makoto in my 2nd year of imprisonment, and my daughter began calling him Dad. When I learned the truth, my hair turned white overnight. At the end of my life, I lay dying in a muddy alley, only to see my daughter Alicia, dressed in expensive clothes, stepping out of a luxury car. She covered her nose, her face full of disgust. "Dad, why did you bring me to see this beggar? I don't want to look at him." Under a black umbrella, my parents clung to Makoto's arms, their eyes cold and disdainful. How could we have birthed such a disgraceful son? The Wang family's reputation is ruined. Willow stood farthest away. When I reached out a trembling hand toward her, she turned her face away. Now, I had returned to the year Makoto committed his crime. This time, I decided to abandon them all first. When I opened the door to my house, I heard my daughter Alicia throwing a tantrum in the living room. "I don't want Dad. I want Uncle. Uncle buys me toys and takes me for ice cream. Dad only forces me to do things I hate. I hate him." I listened in silence, biting my lower lip. A sharp pain pierced my heart. Alicia had a sensitive stomach. Even while managing thousands of people at work, I never forgot to supervise her meals. But Makoto gave her whatever she wanted, becoming closer to her than a real father would. Years of care had earned only my daughter's hatred. After being reborn, I decided never to care for her again. I walked into the living room without even glancing at Alicia, calmly instructing the maid, "Open the fridge and bring out all the ice cream. From now on, the young lady can eat whatever she wants, do whatever she wants. No one is allowed to stop her." Alicia looked at me, shocked. "Really, really," I replied, gazing at her without the slightest warmth. "You want to see your uncle, right? Later, I'll take you there. You can stay at the old house as long as you want. Even if you never come back again, it's fine." Alicia cheered and ran off to pack her little backpack. I glanced at Willow, whose delicate and gentle appearance once fooled me into taking the blame for Makoto. Now that I knew how cold-hearted she truly was, I only felt bored and indifferent. Under my gaze, Willow grew uneasy, her elegant brows knitting together. "You're not acting like yourself today. What's happened?" I gave a casual tug at my lips. "Nothing. I just realized that I don't want to live such a tiring life anymore. Soon, I would fake my death and vanish from the Wang family registry. What happened to Wang Group would have nothing to do with me. As for Willow and Alicia, they would no longer be my wife and daughter. Why should I exhaust myself for others' sake?" Just then, a slender hand landed lightly on my shoulder. Willow squeezed it gently, her voice as soft as a flowing stream. "Then when will you spend more time with us, George? Even if you don't work anymore. Our family's assets are more than enough to ensure that you and Alicia live a life of luxury. Why put yourself through such hardship?" My body stiffened. I thought of how she had tricked me into taking the blame in my past life, and shrugged off her hand. Fixing my gaze firmly on her, Willow grew even more uncomfortable under my stare. Just as tension was rising, I suddenly smiled, as if the coldness just now had been nothing but an illusion. "Come back to the old house with me. I have an announcement to make." Chapter 2. At the Wang family's old estate, the moment Alicia entered the door, she threw herself into Makoto's arms, sweetly acting spoiled. "Uncle, I missed you so much. Uncle, you look so handsome today. Uncle, your smile is so charming." At home, Alicia was usually a little tyrant who loved to cry and throw tantrums. But in front of Makoto, her mouth was as sweet as honey. I stood to the side, expression calm, glancing out of the corner of my eye at Willow, only to find her also gazing at Makoto with indulgent affection. Sensing my gaze, Willow quickly withdrew her look, just as she was about to say something. Makoto, holding Alicia's hand, walked over. The two of them were wearing matching parent-child outfits. "Sis-in-law, look at the matching outfits I bought for Alicia. Aren't they cute?" Makoto said, pulling Alicia's hand and making a funny face at Willow. Willow was slightly stunned, because I was present. She restrained her smile and only gave a small nod. She said, "Alicia never wears pink." Only you could persuade her. A flicker of pride flashed across Makoto's face as he turned to me. "Brother, Alicia likes me so much, are you jealous?" Looking at that innocent-looking face, memories of my past life flashed through my mind like a high-speed movie reel. My fingernails dug sharply into my palm, the pain reminding me to stay calm. "George," my father's voice came from nearby. "All the dishes today are your favorites. Come, have a taste." Snapping out of it, I turned my head and saw a table full of home-cooked dishes, all tailored to my preferred light flavors. In my past life, I had a weak stomach and couldn't handle spicy food. Yet Makoto loved everything fiery hot, and every family gathering the table would be covered in red dishes. Only once had been an exception, and it was today. My father had personally cooked a whole table of my favorite foods, a rare event. Just when I thought I had finally received a shred of familial love, I heard the cruelest words. "George, your mother and I discussed it. From now on, you don't need to concern yourself with the company anymore. Focus on taking care of the family. We'll leave everything to Makoto to manage." The pressure from all sides at that moment made me feel like a thief, as if I had stolen something that rightfully belonged to Makoto. No one remembered that before the company went public, I had worked myself into the ICU several times, while Makoto was vacationing leisurely abroad. No one remembered that when my mother was diagnosed with liver cancer and needed a transplant, it was me, freshly recovered from a serious illness, who climbed onto the operating table without hesitation to save her. At the dinner table, Alicia's little face flushed red with anxiety. "Just give it to Uncle. Why are you being so stingy?" Willow's voice was gentle and sweet. "George, even if you don't work, I can support you and Alicia." My mother waved her hand grandly. "I'm still the head of this family. This decision is final." Tears welled up in my father's eyes as he pleaded. "George, as an older brother, you should let your younger brother have his way. In my past life, on this very day, I exploded with anger, cut ties with the entire family, and swore that unless I died, I would never hand the company over to Makoto. Now, sweeping my gaze across everyone at the table, mother, father, wife, daughter, and the so-called brother, I gave a calm, faint smile and spoke first. "Mom, Dad. Actually, I have an announcement to make. Starting tomorrow, I plan to hand the company over to Makoto and formally return to family life." This decision instantly dissolved the tense atmosphere into one of joy. My mother and father beamed at me with smiles I had never seen before, eagerly picking food into my bowl. "George, you being so filial and understanding makes us truly proud, but Makoto is still a little too naive." Amid Alicia's shrieks of "Long live Uncle," and the pile of food stacking up like a mountain in my bowl, I had absolutely no appetite. Raising my eyes to look at Willow, sure enough, she was gazing at Makoto with unhidden affection. No one noticed when I quietly slipped away. After that family banquet, I never went back to the company again. 10 days later, while I was running on the treadmill at the gym, my phone buzzed. Opening it, I saw that Makoto had tagged me in a post. He had posted a selfie from the CEO's office, wearing a sharp business outfit, posing exactly the way I used to, projecting the image of a business elite. The caption read, "Leading Wong Group into a new era." Within less than a minute, the whole family had jumped out to cheer him on. My mother commented, "Good son, work hard, the future of Wong Group rests on you." My father commented, "Our Makoto has truly grown into a man overnight." Alicia wrote, "Uncle is the best." Willow's comment was only a single word, "You can do it." Seeing these words of warm encouragement, words no one had ever said to me, I felt a sharp sting in my eyes. The fatigue from my workout suddenly overwhelmed me. I turned off the treadmill and was about to take a shower when another message popped up from Makoto. "Brother, tonight the whole family is throwing me a celebration at Cloud Pavilion. You must come. There's a surprise waiting for you." Makoto's final message was a photo. In the picture, Willow's clothes were half off her shoulders, her bare skin faintly exposed. The meaning behind it needed no explanation. Chapter 3. After staring at Makoto's last message for half an hour, I headed straight for Cloud Pavilion and pushed open the door to the private room. Inside, familiar voices reached my ears. "Willow, when are you planning to divorce him? Don't tell me you've actually developed real feelings for him after all this time." After a brief silence, Willow's clear, pleasant voice replied, "How could that be? George is nothing compared to you. If it weren't for the engagement, I would never have married him in the first place. Makoto, you've just taken over the company. Everything is still unstable. I need to stay by your side to help you keep him in check, separated only by a door." I heard every word clearly. A rush of blood surged backward in my veins, dizziness washing over me, and I had to be supported by a passing waiter. "Mr. Wong, are you all right?" I forced myself to stand firm. "I'm fine," lifting my reddened eyes. I saw a commotion at the entrance, my mother and father handing out tips to the staff, faces beaming with joy. I stood there, watching the scene unfold, my eyes growing more and more stinging. It wasn't until my father noticed me that he forced an awkward smile. "George, why are you here?" They had deliberately hidden the celebration from me, afraid I would come and cause a scene, yet I still showed up at the banquet hall. Looking at my father's embarrassed face and my mother's displeased expression, I felt utterly out of place. "I'm here to show support for my brother," I said, voice hoarse, gaze dark and wet. "Or am I so worthless now that I'm not even allowed to attend a family gathering?" My pale face made it impossible not to feel pity. My mother frowned. And just as a storm seemed imminent, a cheerful shout sounded behind me. "Grandma, Grandpa, in craft class today, I made a little red flower for Uncle. I want to give it to the one I love most." Alicia came running over, mistaking me for Makoto, and jumped into my arms with a bright, innocent smile. This lively, affectionate look, I hadn't seen it since she was a baby. Back then, that chubby little thing had clung to me wherever I went. But now, the moment Alicia looked up and realized it was me, she recoiled as if she had seen a ghost. She hid the handmade flower behind her back. Her eyes filled with disgust and wariness. A searing, unspeakable pain pierced my heart. I stood there, silently watching. At that moment, the door to the private room opened. Makoto and Willow walked out, shoulder to shoulder. The moment they saw me, both of their faces changed. Willow's eyes flickered with panic. She immediately distanced herself from Makoto, hurried over to me, and asked gently, "When did you get here? Why didn't you come inside?" I stared at this woman with whom I had shared a bed for 7 years. Once, I had thought her coldness was just her nature. Now I realized, her indifference was because she had never loved me at all. This marriage had only been her compromise, a sacrifice to protect another man. The corners of my lips curled into a mocking smile, my eyes full of bitter disappointment. "This is your family gathering," I said. "How could I dare intrude?" Hearing that, Willow froze, an inexplicable tightness gripping her chest. "George, don't say that." No amount of comforting words could heal the wound in my heart. I turned to look at my parents, my voice calm. "I still have things to do. I won't disturb your family reunion." As I finished speaking, a violent cough suddenly shook my body, and I quickly covered my mouth. A spurt of fresh blood gushed into my palm. My mother and father's expressions changed slightly. Even Willow's fingers twitched instinctively. Just as everyone was about to step forward to check on me, Makoto suddenly clutched his chest and cried out in pain. "Mom, Dad, my heart, it hurts." At his cry, everyone's attention immediately shifted away from me. My mother hurried to call an ambulance. My father anxiously rubbed his chest to help him breathe. Willow ran off to buy emergency medicine, and Alicia was bawling, tears streaming down her face as she chanted, "Uncle, don't hurt, don't hurt." I'll let my dad hurt for you instead. I hadn't walked far. But hearing Alicia's words felt like my feet were filled with lead. I closed my eyes, gritting my teeth as I forced myself to keep walking. Hailing a cab by myself and heading alone to the hospital. Chapter 4. The doctor said that my heart had suffered from acute emotional distress, and that I must not get angry anymore. I stayed home to recover for several days. Other than the housekeeper, neither Willow nor any of the Wong family members came to see me. They were all at the hospital, keeping Makoto company. No one even remembered that I was sick too. On New Year's Eve, I was home alone, cooking frozen dumplings. All the maids had left early to spend the holiday with their families. Fortunately, the housekeeper, seeing how thin and weak I had become, had made some dumplings in advance and left them in the freezer. I silently watched the steam rise from the pot, the only source of warmth in the entire house. A few days ago, the property management had suddenly notified me that the heating was being cut off. Even after several complaints, they insisted it couldn't be restored. I knew very well this was likely Makoto's doing. Outside, the temperature was below -10 degrees Celsius. And indoors it felt almost the same as outdoors. Wearing a thick down jacket, I was just about to scoop out the dumplings when Makoto's video call came through. Brother, we're celebrating New Year on an island. Are you doing okay alone at home? On the screen, Makoto looked healthy and radiant, wearing a fitted cashmere sweater that was both warm and stylish. Behind him, my mother and father were sipping tea and chatting. And outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Willow and Alicia were lighting fireworks. The warm, joyful atmosphere made my eyes sting, but none of it had anything to do with me. Once again, my entire family had abandoned me, leaving me alone in the cold while they enjoyed a cozy holiday on a tropical island. Yet strangely, I no longer felt sad. I calmly looked into the camera. I'm doing great, sorry to disappoint you. Makoto smirked provocatively. Brother, I heard you coughed up blood the other day. Too bad Mom and Dad were too busy worrying about me to notice. Afraid you might be scammed by some shady doctor. I've frozen your bank cards. If you feel really bad, just drink more hot water. Heh. Ever since he took over the company, he didn't even bother to pretend anymore. A shadow flickered across the screen, and Willow's voice drifted over. Makoto, who are you talking to? No one. Just wishing a friend Happy New Year, Makoto said casually, then hung up the call. But even so, I still heard Willow's final words of concern. Your stomach's weak. Don't drink too much. Be careful not to get a stomachache. They were as close as any real couple. I no longer cared who Willow loved. What I couldn't accept was, even in front of my parents, their intimacy was so blatant. And the two elders turned a blind eye, as if it were completely normal. A sharp pain spread through my limbs, and tears welled up in my eyes. At that moment, the doorbell rang. The old butler from the Chan family arrived, bringing a heap of New Year's gifts. Gifts that Madame Chan had prepared to make up for every New Year she had missed from my birth until now. At age 30, Happy New Year, Mr. Wong. Madam wishes you all the best, peace and joy. I had endured my biological family's coldness and betrayal again and again, but facing these carefully prepared gifts, my tears suddenly burst forth uncontrollably. In my 30 years of life, my biological parents had treated me as nothing more than a tool, while Madame Chan, who shared no blood with me, treated me like a true son. Deeply moved, I wiped away my tears and said solemnly, 10 days from now, I'll be at the Chan residence, right on time. By then, I would truly be reborn. I had only opened half the gifts before I drifted into a deep sleep on the sofa. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by a noise upstairs. I was a light sleeper. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a shadowy figure wandering in the dark. Suddenly, a memory from my past life hit me. A thief had broken into my home once. That time, a strange woman had barged into my bedroom. And when Willow caught us, she assumed I had been unfaithful. From then on, our relationship had soured. Soon after, rumors about me spread throughout our social circle. The entire Wong family treated me like a disgrace. And combined with Makoto's arson scandal at the time, they had tacitly allowed me to take the blame. This time, I reacted quickly. I dashed into the first-floor bathroom, called the Chan family, and asked the butler to immediately return with reinforcements. Just as the strange woman was about to smash a window and force her way in, the butler and his men arrived and pinned her to the ground. After giving my statement at the police station, I returned home past midnight. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Makoto and the others sitting neatly in the living room, waiting for me. The New Year's gifts from Madame Chan were also neatly stacked in the corner. Makoto picked up a limited edition watch, his eyes wide with amazement. Brother, we weren't even home for New Year's. Who sent you such expensive gifts? If I'm not mistaken, this watch is one of those rare collector's editions everyone dreams of, right? Brother, you wouldn't happen to be cheating on sis-in-law behind her back. would you? Makoto trailed off, giving Willow a meaningful look. Willow's beautiful face clouded over with anger. Lifting her gaze, she said coldly, George, I really underestimated you. Chapter 5. Watching her act so serious, I couldn't help but find it funny. Even though she didn't have me in her heart, she could still get furious at the thought that I might be cheating. If I hadn't overheard her saying she had never loved me that day, maybe I would have believed there was a shred of real affection. These gifts belong to a friend. I'm just keeping them for now. My tone was casual. I didn't care whether they believed me or not. The wound on my arm throbbed painfully, and as I was about to grab the first aid kit, Willow suddenly grabbed my wrist. She wasn't her usual gentle self. Her eyes were dark and unfamiliar. Her lips pressed tightly together. After a moment, she pointed at the women's shawl on the floor and questioned me coldly. What kind of woman leaves her shawl at a male friend's house? She tightened her grip. As I struggled, my wound was tugged, sending a sharp pain shooting through me. I gasped involuntarily. Willow immediately let go, looking at me strangely. I didn't even use any strength, she muttered, as if explaining to herself, but when she saw the blood oozing from my arm, her expression changed drastically. She frowned and asked, You're hurt? How could you even get injured at home on New Year's Eve? She looked at me with a mix of disdain and concern, her fingers hesitantly reaching toward my wound. Before she could touch me, I lifted my cold gaze to meet hers. Willow's hand froze midair. What's with that look? She asked. After a long moment of staring, I turned and walked to the first-floor bathroom, pulling the door open with a loud bang. The wreckage inside immediately caught Willow's eyes. My mother and father looked equally stunned. Seeing their reactions, I let out a cold laugh. A burglar broke in. I almost didn't live to see tomorrow, and all you could think about since earlier was catching me cheating. My mother and father exchanged a glance but said nothing. Willow let out a soft sigh and walked toward me, her voice filled with guilt. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone at home. Save those words for after I'm dead. I felt nothing inside. My gaze turned cold as I looked at Makoto. I'm curious, I said slowly. Security in this upscale neighborhood is notoriously tight. Why would a woman risk breaking in on New Year's Eve? Did she know ahead of time that I'd be the only one at home? At my words, Makoto's eyes flickered for a split second before he forced a calm reply. Maybe she had been keeping an eye on you for a while. Or maybe you two knew each other before, who knows? I let out a short, mocking laugh and nodded. Fine. If she's that dangerous, we should file a police report and open an investigation. Don't report it. Makoto's voice suddenly rose sharply. His unusual reaction made everyone look at him. My mother and father seemed to realize something. Their faces turned pale. As Makoto grew so anxious he was about to cry, they rushed to comfort him, wiping his tears and turning to me with a half-coaxing, half-threatening tone. The woman's already caught. What's the point of making a scene? Do you think it'll be something to be proud of if this gets out? George, just let it go. All right. I used to think that my parents favored Makoto simply because they didn't see his true colors, so I tore off Makoto's mask right in front of them. Yet when their own son had nearly been ruined, they still chose to protect the very one who started it all. Why? A tearing pain split through my mind. I stared at them, my eyes filled with countless invisible blades, cutting away the last sliver of attachment I had to the Wong family. A slender hand draped over my shoulder, and Willow's voice sounded by my ear. George, as long as you're okay, I'll handle the police and everything else. I promise you'll never be in danger again. All right. She was afraid too, that if we pressed charges, Makoto would be implicated. The pain in my chest intensified. As I turned and was about to push Willow away, someone slammed hard into my lower back. I crashed to the ground, the searing pain in my spine sharp, but not as piercing as the words Alicia screamed while crying. Bad daddy, it's you. You bullied uncle and made him cry. Beat him. Beat the bad daddy. Alicia, despite Willow pulling her back, kept struggling, kicking at me with her little legs. At that moment, the world slowed down around me. All I could see was Alicia and Willow. All I could hear was that shrill cry. Beat him. Beat the bad daddy. Suddenly, tears slipped from the corner of my eyes. Something inside me swelled unbearably fast. My heart could no longer keep up, and the suffocating feeling grew stronger and stronger. A few seconds later, I could no longer hold on. Darkness swallowed my vision, and I passed out. Chapter 6. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. The warm breath I exhaled misted up the oxygen mask, forming a thin layer of white fog. My body felt unbearably heavy, as if filled with lead. Even moving a fingertip was a struggle. A nurse, noticing I was awake, immediately walked over. Mr. Wong, you're finally awake. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Mrs. Chan came by several times. If you hadn't woken up, the entire hospital staff would have been ready to jump off the roof. Her words made me laugh weakly. I asked in a frail voice. Besides Mrs. Chan, did anyone else visit? The nurse shook her head. No, I've been here the whole time. I didn't see anyone else. It was your housekeeper who called the ambulance. Luckily, the internal bleeding was cleared in time, or else you would have spent the rest of your life as a vegetable. I frowned. I remembered collapsing at home, with the whole family present. Yet after I fainted for so long, not a single family member came to the hospital. A chill rose in my chest. I remembered the doctor's orders not to get agitated, so I silently took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I lay in the hospital bed until nightfall. During that time, Mrs. Chan called upon hearing that I had woken up. After expressing a few words of concern, her tone shifted to one of deep anger when she mentioned Willow. That girl from the Liu family, she's absolutely outrageous. You nearly lost your life, and she's still hovering around that Makoto. I'm going to teach the Liu family a lesson and give you justice. At first, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was still puzzled when Makoto suddenly sent me a video. In the video, he was also in a hospital room, wearing a patient gown. His damp bangs clung to his pale forehead, making him look pitifully weak. By his bedside, my mother and father sat with red, swollen eyes from crying. A slender woman's hand patiently spoon-fed Makoto some soup. On her left hand, the wedding ring she wore was identical to mine. Who else could it be but Willow? After sipping the soup, another small hand reached out, offering a peeled orange, perfectly cleaned without a trace of white pith, to his mouth. A child's voice softly murmured, "Uncle, please get better soon. I don't want you to be sick." So, the reason the whole family hadn't shown up was because Makoto had been hospitalized too, and they had all been with him. I closed my eyes and turned off the video. Family affection had already become a luxury I could no longer afford. All I wanted now was a bit of peace. Yet even such a simple wish couldn't be granted. Shortly after sending the video, Makoto and the others came pushing his wheelchair into my hospital room. "George." Willow's voice was hoarse, looking at me as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. In just 3 days, she had become noticeably thinner, her face visibly worn and exhausted. Seeing the whole family assembled like this, a bad feeling rose in my chest. Before I could speak, Makoto suddenly knelt beside my bed, crying, "Brother, I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness. I don't have much time left." As soon as he finished speaking, my father covered his face and began to sob uncontrollably. My mother sighed heavily, patted my father's shoulder, and looked at me with reddened eyes. "We came here today to ask a favor," she said tearfully. "We want to borrow Willow for a little while, to take a set of memorial photos with Makoto before he passes." Memorial photos. The absurdity of the request made me sit there silently for a long moment, making sure I hadn't misheard. Looking at the family's expressions, faces full of certainty that I would agree, I let out a cold laugh and said with biting sarcasm, "And what if I say no? George, how can you be so heartless? Your brother is dying." My father rushed at me, shouting with bloodshot eyes, the shock and disgust in his expression barely contained. Through his furious gaze, I saw my own colorless, blood-drained reflection. I spoke calmly, "You can spoil him all you want. That's none of my business. But as long as Willow and I are still legally married, I will never agree to this ridiculous request unless..." I looked up at Willow, my gaze icy. "Unless we get divorced." Willow froze for a few seconds. Maybe it was my imagination, but it seemed as if her pupils trembled slightly, a flash of anger briefly crossing her eyes. After a moment, her red lips parted, and her voice came out cold and clear. "Fine, let's get a divorce." Chapter 7. George, I'm not just going to take wedding photos with Makoto. This time, I'm going to give him a grand wedding. That day in the hospital room, Willow left me with those words before helping Makoto away. In the now empty ward, I was the only one left. I sat there in a daze for a long time, so long that even my tears had dried, before I finally made up my mind. At dawn, a taxi pulled up in front of the luxurious villa. Wearing nothing but a thin hospital gown, I got out of the car, looked up at the house that had once been my and Willow's marital home, and tightened my grip around the lighter in my palm before stepping inside. Traces of a family life were everywhere inside the house. Alicia's favorite doll still lay on the carpet. The graffiti on the wall hadn't been cleaned. Willow's shawl was casually draped over the back of the sofa. Just a few days ago, mother and daughter had been playing house together in the living room. My throat moved slightly as I tore my gaze away and headed upstairs. I went straight to the master bedroom's walk-in closet. Among the rows of expensive suits, I quickly found a cheaply made white blazer, ordinary in craftsmanship. It was the one I had bought during our honeymoon in Las Vegas the year Willow and I got married. That night had coincided with a mass wedding event in Las Vegas. The entire street was ablaze with lights. I had randomly bought a white blazer from a street vendor and pulled Willow into the crowd to join the festivities. We were both drunk that night, dancing wildly among strangers. After one dance, Willow's hand around my waist refused to let go. Her bright, intoxicated eyes looked up at me with a tenderness deep enough to drown in. She said she thought she had really fallen in love with me. Back then, I didn't understand. Now, I finally did. It was also that night that Willow conceived Alicia. They say that children born from love are especially beautiful. Alicia, as a child, had a round little face, pale soft skin, and bright, lively eyes like grapes, adorable and clever. She truly was a beautiful child, but just like her mother, her eyes and heart were always full of Makoto. I took the white blazer in our wedding photo to the garden. These two things that had once meant so much to me were instantly consumed by flames when I lit the fire. At the end, a gust of wind scattered the ashes. My ties with Willow and Alicia were completely severed. I was about to leave when I suddenly heard noises at the door, followed by bursts of cheerful laughter. Alicia, your mommy and daddy are getting divorced. How about uncle becomes your new daddy? That gentle voice, reaching my ears, felt like a knife stabbing straight into my chest. The next second, Alicia cried out excitedly. Okay, Alicia doesn't like daddy. Alicia loves uncle. Alicia wants uncle to be her daddy. Makoto sounded so smug, his voice dripping with sugary coaxing. Good girl, go take your bath now. After you finish, I'll reward you with a chocolate candy. He spoke in the same tone people use to train a dog. Alicia noticed nothing wrong. Her tiny figure, not even tall enough to reach the doorknob properly, toddled off to the bathroom to run the water herself. Hiding in the guest room, I felt an inexplicable wrenching pain in my chest. Just as Willow entered, after parking her car, a figure rushed into her arms. Makoto hugged her slender waist, his tone full of fawning eagerness. Willow, I've waited so long for this day. As he spoke, he impatiently began unbuttoning Willow's clothes, his voice low and coaxing. I've got a surprise prepared for you tonight. Willow's cheeks flushed slightly, but she pressed his hand down, her voice soft and gentle as she reminded him. Alicia hasn't gone to bed yet. Don't let the child see. Alicia's being such a good girl. She just asked to take a bath by herself, Makoto said, his eyes burning. Why don't we head back to the bedroom? Makoto wrapped his arms around Willow's neck, and the two of them kissed and tangled their way to the master bedroom. After I heard the master bedroom door slam shut, I waited a few more moments before stepping out of the guest room. My face was so pale it made me look even worse than I had in the hospital. Lifting my gaze toward the second-floor master bedroom, my eyes were filled with nothing but disgust. I was about to leave when suddenly, a sharp scream came from the bathroom. Chapter 8, Alicia. I rushed into the bathroom and, through the rising steam, saw Alicia lying on the floor. I quickly helped her up, but as soon as Alicia saw my face clearly, she pushed me away forcefully. Who told you to come back? I have a new daddy now. I don't need you anymore. The distance in her eyes pierced deep into my heart, waking me up completely. I let go of Alicia, stood up, and said with chilling calmness, "You're right. Since you have a new daddy now, you no longer need my protection." Before leaving, out of the last shred of fatherly duty, I reminded her, "Eating candy before bed will rot your teeth. Be careful not to get cavities." That was the last thing I ever said to Alicia. Sopping wet, Alicia watched my back as I left, feeling a strange unease, but thinking of her handsome, gentle uncle, she quickly forgot about it. The wedding between the Wang and Liu families was a modest affair. After all, in the eyes of the world, this marriage was far from honorable. Yet Makoto still posed elegantly for the wedding photos in his suit and sent them all to me. Bro, my wedding's about to start. It's a pity you won't be here. I look pretty handsome in a suit, don't I? Willow says I'm even more handsome than you were back then. As I received those messages, I was standing at a private airfield, about to board a helicopter. I carried only a small briefcase. Inside were documents that determined the life and death of the Wang family's business empire. Looking at the constant stream of notifications, I chuckled sarcastically. Then, I pulled out my SIM card, snapped it in half, and tossed it into a trash can. I instructed the security team from the Chan family's confidential unit, "Please release the news of my death half an hour after takeoff and make sure Makoto receives my parting gift." The team leader gave a slight bow. "Understood, young master." The helicopter awaited me at the red-carpeted stairs. I stepped up and took one last look at the sky above City A. It was as blue as it had been the day I was brought back to my parents. But this time, I was leaving it forever. 2 hours later, the plane touched down, and George completely vanished from existence, replaced by David, the newly recovered heir of the Chan family. As for Willow and Makoto, it wouldn't be long before they tasted betrayal and abandonment. The Wang family's business empire would soon be swallowed by the brutal corporate world. I would make sure everyone who had ever hurt me knew just how cold and cruel the rain was when there was no one left to shield them. Willow, linking arms with my mother, slowly walked along the floral path. Little Alicia, dressed as a flower girl, scattered handfuls of petals into the air. Step by step, Willow approached Makoto. In front of her was the man she had loved for 10 years, yet for some reason, her heart felt strangely empty. Images of George in his wedding suit kept flashing in her mind. At that moment, the big screen at the wedding suddenly lit up. George's face appeared. "Hello, everyone. I'm Makoto's older brother, George. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the wedding, because I'm already dead." The venue erupted into chaos. Willow stood frozen in place, the ring slipping from her fingertip and falling to the ground with a sharp clink. Chapter 9. George unfolded a medical report. The words, "Stage 3 leukemia," and "1 month left to live" were clearly visible. With a pale, bloodless face, he spoke slowly. "Mom, Dad, I was too petty. Even when Makoto was supposedly terminally ill, I still refused to lend him my wife for wedding photos. But it's fine now. I've given her to him completely. You won't blame me anymore, will you? Congratulations to my ex-wife and my brother. I wish you a long and happy life together." As George finished speaking, 2 streams of blood suddenly poured from his nose. He quickly covered his face and cut off the recording. The screen went dark, leaving the entire hall in a heavy, deathly silence. Willow stood there, full of disbelief. An unspeakable sourness overwhelmed her chest, and the ring slipped once again from her fingers, falling onto the floor. My mother and father were equally stunned, so shocked they couldn't speak for a long time. It wasn't until Alicia walked over and innocently asked, "Grandma, Grandpa, what does cremation mean?" Everyone finally snapped out of it, only to feel a stabbing pain deep in their hearts. How can a sister-in-law marry her husband's brother when her husband isn't even cold in the ground yet? The Wong family has truly gone mad. A respected elder stood up angrily, followed by other guests leaving in disgust. In the blink of an eye, the banquet hall, originally meant to accommodate hundreds, became cold and deserted. Makoto's face twisted as if he had swallowed a fly. In his heart, he cursed George 1,000 times over. Why? Why couldn't he just die quietly? Why did he have to ruin everything even at death's door? Wong's father, choking with sobs, said, "Why didn't that child tell us he was sick?" Makoto's heart skipped a beat. He quickly suppressed his anger and looked at Wong's father with a face full of aggrieved innocence. "Dad, my brother willingly divorced Willow, but now he's pulling this stunt at the wedding. Isn't it just to get back at me? I don't care if he humiliates me, but what about the Wong family's reputation?" Just as he finished speaking, a sharp, cold laugh echoed from the audience. Everyone turned to realize someone had not left yet. A tall woman in a sharply tailored black suit, exuding a powerful, commanding presence, walked slowly toward them. Her phoenix-like eyes swept over Makoto, making his spine stiffen with fear. Willow frowned, her voice indifferent. "Who are you? You're not on the guest list." The woman, radiating the effortless poise and disdain of someone born to power, replied in a frosty voice, "You're not worthy of knowing my name. You." Willow lunged forward, trying to grab the woman's arm. Before she could touch her, several bodyguards immediately pinned her to the ground. The sudden confrontation made Makoto stumble back a step, pale as a sheet. Who are you?" The woman curled her lips in a mocking smile, raising her left hand slightly. A silver family ring on her index finger gleamed under the light. When the Wongs and Willow saw the ring, their faces turned from anger to shock. That was the family crest of the top-tier conglomerate, the Su family. Seeing their reactions, the woman sneered slightly, motioning the bodyguards to release Willow.